Well, if you've watched my videos much, you probably have already picked up that I love using vintage lenses on digital cameras. You know, I just love the look that you get from vintage lenses, the old film lenses. And to me, in certain circumstances, the modern lenses that come on digital cameras are just too good. I mean, they're super sharp, super contrasty, color saturation's great. Everything's just like almost too perfect. And so if you're wanting to be able to take some pictures that have some character, that have maybe a little bit more of a film look, one of the best ways to do it is to use those old vintage lenses from the film cameras. Now, one of my favorite ways to do that is to use lenses from rangefinder cameras, like the screw mount Leica cameras. Those are my favorite. If you've got M mount Leica lenses or lenses made for M mount cameras, those are good too. But look, you know, they're tiny. And that's one of the things I love on Micro Four Thirds is the Micro Four Thirds cameras are small. And to me, you know, you put some big, even a vintage lens on the front of your little bitty Micro Four Thirds camera, it just seems to look kind of out of place. So I really like using these lenses. This is an old light Sumeron, 35 millimeter Sumeron. Look how tiny that is. That is just, I mean, if I hold it back here by my face, you can see it's really small. And so I love using these. One of them I use a bit is this, Minolta actually made a Leica screw mount copy. Now this is on an adapter. So you can see this black part is the adapter and the chrome part, the nickel plated part is the lens. Again, very small. This is 45 millimeter f2.8. This is Minolta made a Leica screw mount copy back in the 50s, I think it was. And this is one of their lenses. Really super quality. Someday I'll have to do a review on this one. But the one I want to talk about today is a very affordable lens that has some really unique image qualities. And that lens is called the Jupiter 8. Now, let me take the lens hood off this and this adapter so you can see what the lens looks like on its own. There were, for the Leica screw mount copies, the screw-in copies of these lenses, there's 4 different versions. There's also versions that are made for Kiev or Contax cameras that don't have a focusing assembly on them. It's just a lens with a bayonet mount that fits into the camera, and the camera has the focusing mount. You don't really want to try to use those. They do make some adapters, but they're very expensive. And if you're going to buy a Jupiter lens like on eBay or some other site, then there's no point in buying the kind that you have to buy an expensive adapter for. You can buy these inexpensive Photo-C adapters on Amazon. I'll link these in the description down below. These are like $10 or $11. They're really inexpensive. It's got Leica screw threads on the inside, your Micro Four Thirds mount on the back side, and there's actually some little Allen head screws around the perimeter, 3 of them, so you can loosen this, and the bright metal part here, the chrome, you can rotate it. So when you screw the lens in, if the top of the lens doesn't come out straight on top, you can actually loosen these and rotate it around. Most of them will come pretty close, but if you find one that you need to adjust, these are adjustable. But this is the Jupiter 8. It's a design called a sonar design. Carl Zeiss in the 30s designed a lens called a sonar, S-O-N-N-A-R. And after World War II, Russia was, or Soviet Union was given, as war reparations, they were given a lot of the equipment and designs and people even from the Zeiss, Carl Zeiss factory in Dresden. And so they took that back and they started making, you know, given that they also got some materials, they actually made some cameras and lenses from those leftover materials and then started building their own. And so there's a whole bunch of different Russian cameras that kind of sprang from that. But one of the cool things is there's a bunch of different lenses that have this Leica screw mount that also came from that. There's this sonar design, there's some Industar lenses that are Tesser designs, there's some wide angle lenses, even some telephotos, and they're all fairly affordable. And the sonar is a very affordable lens. I think I bought this one, actually this one I bought online on an online auction. It wasn't eBay, but it was just an online auction, and it was on a Fed 5B Russian camera, and they didn't have a very good description of it, and they had a whole bunch of photographic equipment on this auction as I went through all the equipment, and I saw this thing and nobody was really bidding on it, and so when the bid time came to close, I bid on it and got it for $11. I don't have the camera here with me. Some of the Russian cameras to me are just kind of ugly. Some not so much, but this was on it. It's a really good lens. So there's 4 versions of the Jupiter. This one I have on a Zorky 6. This is one of my favorite Russian cameras. We're going to have to talk about Russian cameras at some point. But this is a Zorky 6 that uses the Leica screw mount lenses. And so you can see there's black versions, there's chrome versions. Actually, they're just polished aluminum. And there's a lot of different variations on the lenses, but there's 4 main types that they're kind of grouped together. The oldest type is this one. And you can tell it's unique in that it has this little focusing tab that sticks out. And if you were to look closely, you can see a red, see if I can get it to show up, right here at the top here, there's a red Cyrillic letter P. It doesn't look like a P because it's Cyrillic lettering. I don't know if I can get that any closer to see it. But there it is, it kind of shows up. But that red letter indicates that it has some special coating or whatever it's coated. Anyway, the oldest version like this is reputed to have the best image quality. And so that's one of the reasons I bid on this. I could tell what it was, and I got it for camera and lens for 11 bucks. This one I think I bought on eBay, it was around $35, plus some shipping. It came from Ukraine, actually it came pretty fast. And this is the latest version, the last version. This one, generally the first 2 digits of the serial number is the year of manufacture, so this one was made in '76. This one was made in 1958, so they've been making these a long time. So the first version is bright aluminum. The second version looks very similar to this, but doesn't have this focus tab and doesn't have the red P. So it's just, there's no focus tab on here, you can tell it from that. The third version is black like this one, but the lettering, instead of being like in green on the focus here, it's all white. All the lettering's white. But it looks very similar to this, all black, but all the lettering is white. And then the fourth version, the last version, is this one with the green lettering. And it is supposedly has improved coating. And some even suggest it might be multi-coated, though there's no indication of that in terms of markings on the lens. So I doubt that's necessarily true, but it supposedly has improved coating and maybe a bit more resistant to flare. So, you know, if you read different blogs on these or articles on these and watch videos, I think the general consensus is that this oldest version, the one with the focus tab and the red P, is best in terms of sharpness, and that the last version, that's this one with the green lettering, is better coated and maybe more resistant to flare and maybe have a little bit better contrast because of that. And then kind of in third place is the bright aluminum version that doesn't have the focus tab, and then the fourth place one is the black one that has the all white lettering. So I decided to do some playing with these and doing some testing, and I can tell you that in terms of sharpness, I'd hate to live on the difference between the two. The bright one with the tab here, this oldest one, is slightly sharper at the edges at wide apertures. Very slightly better. I mean, I'd hate to live on the difference. Any of these I think you buy are going to be really good. I don't think I would shy away from any one of them if you can get a good deal on it. This one may be a bit more resistant to flare, but the main difference I noticed between these two is that this older one with the focus tab has slightly warmer color rendition than does this black one, which is a little bit cooler. It's kind of like if you've been around film cameras long enough to remember the film camera days, Nikons had kind of a blue coating and were known to produce images that were a little cooler than, say, Minolta lenses or Pentax lenses that had brown coatings and maybe made slightly warmer images. So since I mainly shoot black and white film in my film cameras, I'm just using this one on this Zorky 6, a neat little camera. Like I said, we're going to talk about those at some point. And I've been using this one with an adapter on my digital camera. I like the color rendition when I'm shooting color digital. So these adapters, like I say, are very affordable. This makes for a super compact setup. You know, mounts with your adapter just like it was a regular lens. Again, you have to manually set your aperture and you have to manually focus, right? So I usually put my camera on aperture priority, and so it's going to choose the shutter speed that goes with whatever aperture I have set. One of the drawbacks of these, however, is they only focus down to 1 meter. That's because of the rangefinder system they're made to work with. That's as close as they focus. If you want to focus closer than that, they make extension tubes. Now, you can get micro 4/3 extension tubes that extend whatever lens you have on the front of here out a little bit. I don't have any of those, but I do have some Leica screw mount extension tubes. This is a 12 millimeter extension tube. And so you can actually put the lens on the front of that extension tube and extend it out 12 millimeters. The focus throw on the lens is 3 millimeters, so if I run it around to infinity, then it's only extended 12 millimeter. If I run it out to the closest focus, it's, I guess, a total of about 15. But this allows me to focus about 8.5 inches away from the lens. So if I want to do, I wouldn't use this for real macro work, but if you're wanting to do close-ups of flowers and some things, it really has a really beautiful effect. And that's one of the things that's really great about this lens, is that wide open at f2, these have a real kind of, they have good resolution in the center, but they have kind of a soft, dreamy look. It's kind of a creamy, kind of soft glow around things. There's a photographer that has a YouTube channel. I think it's Matt Osborne. He goes by MrLeica.com, and he does a video. I think I'll link his video in the description down below. He does a review on this Jupiter, and what he says is that, you know, you can use this lens for shooting portraits and skip all the post-processing editing in terms of trying to soften the image or change the way it looks to make it look more, vintage looking. That this gives you images that are very vintage looking without having to do anything. He really likes the lens. Again, he shoots it primarily wide open and does a lot of portraiture models, and he really likes what it does in terms of the skin renditioning. You know, it's going to smooth out lines and creases and things that girls don't want to see illustrated on their portraits. So it's, if you do portrait, I'm not a portrait photographer, but if you do portraiture, I think this would be a great lens to have for that purpose. So I like using it for just scenic stuff, for still lifes, for pictures of flowers, things like that. I just love the soft, kind of dreamy kind of image that it gets. Now, if you stop this lens down past about f4, and certainly when you get around f8, it gets very sharp. Edge to edge at f8, it's sharp all the way across and very nicely sharp. So it's a very versatile lens. You know, you can use it stop down and get the sharpness you need. If you want that kind of soft, dreamy look, then you know, you can shoot it wide open. Now, if you're wanting a vintage lens that's edge to edge, sharp, wide open, this is not your lens. You know, I mean, if you can do that, just use a modern lens. But if you want something that has a really cool vintage look, some real artistic rendering, this is a lens to look at. A lot of photographers really love this. And again, they're super affordable. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you some images. And what I've done, I've taken a series of pictures, and I shot first at f2 and then stopped down to f2.8, so you can see just stopping down one stop starts to sharpen things up a bit. And then I shot a picture at f8. Now, some of the pictures I only shot at f2 and f2.8, and some of them I shot 3. So if there's 3 pictures, the last one's at f8. If there's only 2, then the first one's at f2, second one's at f2.8. Some of them I actually put it in the lower left corner of the picture. I put the aperture, some I didn't. And the last set of pictures, there's 3 of them of some pansies actually out in my front garden. I shot those with an extension tube, so you can kind of see what it looks like if you're really close. And also you'll see on some of the pictures where I did 100%, basically zoomed in to 100%, so you can see the central part of the picture and the sharpness with it kind of magnified. So you'll see that in some of the pictures. Again, I think from an art perspective, these are just a fantastic lens. They're, again, very affordable, very fun to get. Now, a couple things about buying lenses on eBay. I think you have to be very careful about who you buy from. And it's not that I'm so much worried about maybe somebody cheating me intentionally as just not being very accurate in their descriptions and stuff. So one of the first things I do is, if I'm looking at a product on eBay, I look at the seller's there's a percentage rating on how many positive reviews that person's gotten. And if it's, you know, to me, it's got to be higher than 98%, or I probably won't buy from them. Because you start getting numbers below that, that means there's an increasing, especially if they've done a lot of sales, there's an increasing number of people that have been unhappy for some reason. And so I tend to, you know, if I see someone that's only got 93 or 94% positive or 95, I tend to start to get a little bit wary. I'd have to, you know, if it had really good pictures that I could really see the product and I felt like it was worth trying, I might do it. But I feel a lot more comfortable if somebody's got 100% rating than if I find somebody that's got something lower. So that's one of the first things. I tend not to really buy from auctions, but I tend to buy more of the buy it now stuff. Maybe that's not the way to get the cheapest, but I think sometimes you can not only get good deals, you can also have to skip the waiting and all that. And you know, if you're going to win an auction, you've got to be there right when it closes and put your bids in right at the last second to try to you know, get the price you want without having to compete with people as the price runs up. So, you know, I know there's all kinds of videos on how to win auctions on eBay online. I won't get into that, but so if you buy Russian lenses, it's not too uncommon that you know, some of these have sat for quite a while. It's not too uncommon that they can be a little sticky, and so this one is really beautiful. I got the one I got for $11, so I was really lucky with it. I've had some that I had to not completely disassemble, but take apart a little bit and maybe get some new lubricant in the focus or in the aperture. If you're not real handy with doing some of that, don't hesitate to ask the seller on eBay if the focus is good and if there's going to be any problems. So let's look at some of these images. I'll let you take a look at these and kind of see what you think of the pictures and the qualities of this lens. I really love this one. That's the older one. I love the color rendition of it. I like the image quality, and like I say, it's the Jupiter 8 is not a lens that's going to be razor sharp, edge to edge, wide open. That's not this lens. This lens is I kind of put it in the same class as the Pentacon, the 50mm Pentacon. It's a great art lens. Gives you just really some amazing images. And again, I like these Leica screw mount variety lenses for use on the digital cameras because they're just so small and compact. I love the size, and to me that really works more for, this is my Canon L2 that lens normally lives on. They just seem to be the more, you know, kind of the same size as the Micro Four Thirds lenses. They seem to be a better fit in that way. So if I haven't carried the camera around, to me it just seems like a better fit. So there are some lens hoods. I'll link a couple of these lens hoods as well as the adapters. These use a 40 and a 40.5 millimeter filter thread, so you can get a lens hood for it. I was actually lucky. This is a lens cap from a Nikon 50 f2.8 enlarging, an EL Nikkor enlarging lens that happens to be 40.5 millimeter and fits this nicely. So give me a front cap. Anyway, let's look at the pictures. Take a look at those, and then I'll catch you when you come back. Well, I hope you found those images interesting. This lens, this Jupiter 8, is really just one of my favorites, and I've really been enjoying using it. It might be something you want to look at if you want a very affordable option for a vintage lens that has some really great image characteristics. Definitely one to look at. So if you you know, want a vintage lens that you can adapt that really is special, that's the way to go. And you know, like I say, I'm gonna have to do a video on rangefinder cameras. I used to have a ton of Leica gear, and when digital was coming in and film cameras prices were really dropping, I sold all my Leica stuff. I'm really sad about that. But I found this lens, and I've done a video on this Leica Sumeron before. I found it on an aircraft gun camera, and I bought this Canon L2, which has 35 millimeter viewfinder capability, and I love shooting with it. And then I bought this Zorky 6. This was really inexpensive, and had a different lens on it, but I put the newer version of the Jupiter on it. If you're into film cameras, I'm going to do some videos on film cameras, rangefinder cameras, as we move forward as well, because I just really love using those old rangefinder cameras. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. If you have any thoughts or questions, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment. I always love hearing from you. And as always, thanks for watching.